There's only 24 hours in a day. I got a pair of earbuds and I wish there was a way that I could know just what I want to listen to. There's 150,000 shows that I'm not sitting through. When the world is dark and boring, let us do your exploring. Pod on pod. Pod on pod.
Welcome to Pod on Pod, a guide to the world of podcasts, because it's not your daddy's radio. We're your hosts.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Joel. What a week, my friend.
Yeah, it's been a busy week.
We've been blowing up all over the Twitters and the Facebooks and, the Instagram. Well, we're not on the Instagram.
Well, most importantly, the downloads.
Indeed, my friend. Hello and welcome to a ton of new listeners. This little show that you may have heard of, Stuff You Should Know, gave us a couple of shout-outs last week, Josh.
Yeah.
I think it's because they have a Josh on their team as well. That's
it could
why.
be, or it could be just because they're good dudes.
Yeah, maybe so. Either way, it's obvious that they have a lot more listeners than we do, because we now have a lot more listeners than we did. So thank you, Josh and Chuck, first and foremost. And thank you to anybody who has turned on Pod.
You know, getting the new listeners is great, but you know what's even better?
Keeping the old ones.
Well, that too, but all of the feedback.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm buried under a mountain of podcast submissions. We've got so many submissions from so many people, and we're going to be naming a lot of you by name and thanking you for these as we come up to your reviews, but there are really too many to get to today. I just want to say this. You and I have been discussing it, and we needed to find some way to say a big fat thank you to all of these listeners for all of these submissions. And so, in the month of November,
Remember.
That's right. Remember November. And nothing but listener-submitted podcasts.
Yes.
That's all we're going to review in the month of November. And you and I are cooking up some different ways that we can get through more of these reviews. And we don't have anything specific to announce about that other than the listener-submitted month, which, by the way, we're going to make an annual thing. What do you think about that?
Yep, every November, Listener Appreciation Month.
I love it. I think it's a tremendous idea. But again, thank you. And it's not like people just said, hey, here's a podcast I listen to. Why don't you listen to it and review it? Like, they gave us notes.
Yeah, these guys. What's great is to get the feedback and hear from people that are just as passionate and in love with this medium as we are.
Here's the other thing that we got. We got a handful of new reviews on iTunes, and we appreciate those. We got a couple that were conflicting. We got folks on Twitter that said they subscribed based solely on the theme song.
Yeah.
Then I got a review on iTunes that said, I love everything about your podcast except the theme song. So I think Abraham Lincoln said you can't please all the people all the time. But we hope that you find something in this show to like, and we hope through this show you find some new podcasts to like. Every week here at Pod on Pod, we review a new podcast trying to help you find your next favorite show. Today's episode is going to be all about Mommy's Cocktail Hour.
Sounds delicious.
Mommy'sCocktailHour.com is where you can find all the info on this show. And you can find out more about the ladies behind it. Who are they? Well, it's Beth, Lindsay, Tawny, and Chrissy.
Yes.
And I have pronounced all of those correctly.
Yeah. Did you not know a Tawny before listening to the show?
The only Tawny I knew before this was Tawny Katan.
That's a great name.
Isn't it, though? This is a cool show, too. And you and I... This show's been on the list from way back when.
It's technically, I guess, would be our first listener-submitted
It is.
show.
If you go back far enough, we'd kind of forgotten about it. I knew it was on the list. I'd forgotten who submitted it. But it turns out that these ladies, or at least some of them, are related to the fellows who do the Ivy Envy podcast.
Yes, I did not know this until I started listening to some of the episodes. And they talked about Corey and Ivy Envy, which is a show I still listen to.
And, of course, that was one of our first reviews, as a matter of fact, in the very first batch.
And I got to tell you, if I were to meet Corey, I say, hey, how's it going? And he said, living the dream, I could not disagree. This guy gets to podcast about the Cubs, which I love, and it's fantastic, and people who do that are definitely passionate. But then he also gets to hang out with a wife that is making cocktails weekly.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool idea. So the tagline of Mommy's Cocktail Hour, when they first introduced the show, really tells you all that you need to know about it. They just say, put the kids to bed, break open your liquor cabinet, and get ready for Mommy's Cocktail Hour. If you're a parent then you know at the end of the week, at the end of the day, sometimes it feels like you need a cocktail. You need a little something to take the edge off.
Full disclosure, I am not female, nor do I have kids. So I'm not the demographic for this show.
I'm not female, but I definitely have children. And there are lots about this show that I could connect with, that I understood, that I was like, hey, yeah, no, I get that, and I appreciate that thing, and I like this thing, and I like that thing. The other thing that you and I both have in common is we're both married.
Yes.
So there is a lot about this show. They talk about marriage. They talk about relationships. They talk about parenting a lot. They talk about the interaction between parents and kids and different problems that come up while you're raising kids. And they've got varied ages of children too. So I feel like some of that advice can kind of hit a broad section of their audience. Really, they cover a lot of bases with the topics that they bring. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The way we talk about a show here on Pod on Pod is by breaking it down through 4 categories. We talk about audio quality. We talk about host likability. We talk about production values, and then the content itself. But first, I want to, again, tell you a little bit more about these ladies, and you can find all this info at mommiescocktailhour.com. Beth has Squishy, who's 2 years old. They have nicknames for their children.
And in fact, it was easier for me to keep up with who's talking by their kid's nickname.
Yes. You and I talked about this afterwards. The names, and this is a problem anytime you have more than 2 hosts on a show. Unless you listen every week for months and months and months and become dear friends to these people almost in some way, it's very, very hard to keep names straight, particularly when they're normal names.
When you get past the 3 host mark, I feel like there's a diminishing return on the additional hosts.
We've talked before about how it's great when you have a show and the 2 voices are very different, or the 3 voices are very different.
Yeah.
And it's not like these ladies all sound the same, but even if you can keep, okay, that's host 1 and that's host 2 and that's host 3, trying to attach a name to them, since they don't often introduce themselves again throughout the middle of the show, it becomes very, very difficult. But you can, as you said, track it by their kids. So Beth has Squishy.
Right, let me see if I can, Bruiser is Tawny's kid.
That is true.
Yes.
She's got another one, though.
Princess.
Very good.
Okay. Chrissy's got 3 kids.
Yes.
Mimi.
Yes.
Junior.
Yes.
Oh, man.
You're so close.
Dang it. I don't know. I can't remember.
Peanut.
Peanut.
I started to say allergies.
Dang. And then the 4th host.
Lindsay
has, is it Precious?
Sweetness. So close. And Clifford. Yeah. So there you go. That breaks you in on not only the hosts of this show, but also their children, which is important in a show like this. Mommy's Cocktail Hour, they've been running for quite some time. They got 102 episodes out there. All right, so let's get right into breaking this show down. Let's talk about audio quality first.
Okay.
And this, I think, is going to be both of our biggest problems with the show. Anytime you got multiple hosts, especially when they're not co-located. These ladies are all in different places, all getting on with Skype or Google Hangout.
It's almost always Google Hangout.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that even when you have multiple hosts. But the combination of, you sometimes have all 4 ladies on at once, not always, but often. And then you've also got varying degrees of mics, varying degrees of like soundproofing in their rooms. All those issues come to bear all at once on the audio.
But by and large, a very listenable show. I had a really tough time with the live shows.
That I'm with you 100%. I listened to episode 62, episode 84, and then episode 100 part 1. We like to listen to at least...
I listened to 100 part 1, the Moscow Mule episode.
Yes. Well, I knew you were going to be on that one just for the drink. So episode 62, 84, and 100 part 1. We like to listen to at least 3 episodes of a podcast because, frankly, if you don't listen to at least that many, you really have no idea whether you're going to like the show.
You're not even scratching the surface.
You really aren't. You're not going to be able to get in any of the in jokes. You're not going to have a feel for the hosts, really, and you're not going to have a feel for the flow of their show. Plus, you might just happen upon the one episode that you listen to has bad audio or a little issue, and you're like, well, I don't like this show at all. This is junk. And give it up. That's not the way to do it.
Some of the shows that I have fallen in love with the most are the shows that I hated the first episode.
If you've listened to our podcast very much, you know I've turned around several times on a show.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the way they set up the show. The first thing is they make a drink every episode.
So we're getting into the content?
Yeah, let's go to content.
All right.
They make a drink every episode.
Yes.
they find fantastic finds.
That is correct.
I think that's my favorite part, and it's something I don't know of any other show that I've heard do this exact same thing. The fantastic find can be anything.
You know, if you watch any stand-up comedy or have done anything with stand-up comedy, you always tell your second best joke first and then end with your best joke.
Okay, yes.
That's how you should do it. And I feel like that's what I get from this is they start with the drink and they generally end with fantastic finds.
Or at least it's towards the end.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of wraps things up a little bit. But the fabulous finds. I said
Fabulous finds.
fantastic.
Yep.
Fabulous finds is what they call it. It's a great idea, though. Here's the deal. Maybe there's some delicious new food that they've tried during the week.
I would think women do this far more often than men. They find something they want to share with their girlfriends, right?
Sure.
They want to be, oh, look at what I found. And the girls are like, oh, man, she's so cool. She found this, right? But dudes are like, I don't want anybody to know about this. This is mine.
Maybe they find a great book that they're reading. Maybe it's an app for their phones or their
show.
iPad, TV show, whatever it might be.
Food.
A purse. And for instance, one of the episodes I listened to was iPhone cases. It was actually a sponsored segment. This company had sent them all several different kinds of phone cases to try out, and they reviewed like 5 or 6 of them all at once in the Fabulous Find section. I thought that was kind of cool. They also have a fit tip, which is helpful if you're a busy parent. And then generally they have either a marriage topic or a relationship topic or a parenting topic that they kind of focus on during the episode, during the meat of the episode.
You know what Fabulous Find? And I was kind of like, so I guess there's a girl version of it. There's a card comb. So it's like a credit card, but it's a comb and you can keep it in your wallet.
Yeah.
Right? So I've got one of the like card multi-tools, right?
Okay.
And when it came to that part, he's like, oh, I got the card wallet. It's fantastic. I thought, wow, what a waste. Like
To
all
only have a comb?
Yeah, like maybe add a scissor to it, and then you can trim some split ends, right?
Sure.
Like you could do more than just the comb to that.
I think the comb's fine, though. I'm pretty impressed by
Have
a
a
comb.
mirror on one side of it.
Here-
Boom. I like the comb idea, but come on. Like you could definitely do more with that.
So we're in agreement that the segments are awesome. Like
Yeah, good
the
segments.
way that they set up and organize the show is very handy, and the ideas, Fabulous Finds in particular, the fit tip, and then the relationship or parenting topic or whatever. That's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
So that brings us to the
I
ladies.
did feel like I listened to episode 88 maybe, and it was about playgrounds, and I felt like 12-year-old Josh was getting an earful about his actions at the playground.
You were getting scolded there.
I was like, oh man, I was kind of a hooligan.
So let's take that over to host likability then. The ladies that are actually delivering this wonderful content that we appreciate so much. What did you think? You got a favorite?
This is what I think.
Okay.
I think I don't have a close circle of friends that are girls, and I never hang out with girls in a group of more than 2.
All right. So
It's not them, it's me.
So having
I'm the one who thinks they can find a better use of their time.
you're the one that thinks, oh, you can find a better use
Yeah,
of your
I
time.
can't. I just can't.
4
be where-
ladies all at once is
Yeah,
too
I
much.
can't
for you.
do it. I can't, man.
It only overwhelmed me in the live episode, and I was with them all the way until we got a caller. When it was the 4 ladies and a caller, all by some electronic media to
Because
each
everybody's
other.
trying to be nice. Everybody's
Yeah.
trying to out nice each other, and it drives me batty.
That was the combination of the niceties and also since there was the caller was a newbie, she had not listened to the show, so she was.
How did you get this number?
Yeah, sort of like she was listening for the first time, but like she was sort of like chiming in and yet asking them things at the same time, and they were all trying to be polite and let
Yes.
the other one respond, and there was a lot of starting and stopping and starting and stopping. It was a little frustrating. If that was your first episode, I feel like you're going to shortchange this show and walk away from it when you may have a lot to gain from the show in the regular episodes.
I'm going to tell you. I think what would make me like the show more would be, so I listened to episode 69, and 69 I believe was just Tawny and Squishy's mom.
Okay.
Okay, and that was really easy to listen to. right? Like if it was just like 2 hosts all the time and then a rotation, but never more than 3, like you can bring on Chrissy or one of the other
Just
ones.
rotate.
Yes, it would make it so much easier to listen to because the shows that I found that were short-handed, to me, were the better shows.
They flowed better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. So it's not really host likability that we have a problem with. Although you didn't answer my question. Do you have a favorite mommy? You don't have a favorite mommy. You have favorite kids.
What's hard because I'm going to be honest, this is an explicit show.
I guess we haven't said that. You're right.
Yeah,
and
it is.
It gets more explicit as they go too because they're drinking.
They're drinking
Yes,
more and more.
Absolutely. They'll tell you.
No,
They'll tell you.
especially whenever they were talking about the playgrounds, because there was a news story that someone was going to these playgrounds and like taking this putty and putting razor blades in it. Like,
Oh, wow.
So you're going across the monkey bars, and one of the monkey bars has the putty and the razor blades, and you cut your hand, or it's at the bottom of the slide, right?
Oh, my God.
Real crazy stuff.
Was that a real story?
Yeah, and they talked about it, and they were not happy.
I can't imagine. I'm not happy either, and I don't go to
And
playgrounds
it's
that much.
definitely more expletive ridden when they are not happy.
No, absolutely. That's very, very true.
I probably like it better when they're angry or frustrated about something.
I think it's nice for these ladies and for other ladies like them and for other dads that can get something from this too, to be able to cut loose. The fact of the matter is we all hold our tongues around our kids. We're all talking about
Yeah. Yeah.
darn and gosh and golly gee.
Believe it or not, I used to work at a daycare in high school.
I don't believe it.
I
mean, I do believe it because I know that it's true, but it is hard to believe.
And let me tell you, after work, you'd go out with
You were
your
a sailor?
coworkers. You have to just let it out somehow, man.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Elementary school teachers, freaks, all of them. I say that since I'm married to one. So that's host likability. We talked about audio quality. We talked about the content. Let's talk about production values.
Okay.
What do you think about the theme song?
Is it really a theme? I thought it was just ice in a glass.
Oh, maybe it is. Here, I'm
And
gonna
it's
click and
kind
play
of
it.
a talked through intro, I thought.
And then you've got the introduction to the show, which is just as I said earlier.
Yeah, straightforward.
Hey, ladies, put the kids to bed, open up your liquor cabinet, and enjoy Mommy's Cocktail Hour. I like that there's not a lot of fluff, a lot of nonsense. They don't dress it up.
In general, my rule of thumb is I don't like that much production. I like it straightforward, like a conversation. That's why you go to a podcast.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need the flash and bang.
I'll agree with that. So these ladies do it right. They get in and they get out. And I think part of that is because they've been doing it for a long time. Like they understand this is the way to do the show. They've 100 episodes and change now. But also because they've got the added benefit of having, their fellas that are involved with the IVNV show. And those guys have been around a long time.
Yeah, 5-6 seasons, I believe.
Yeah. So this is podcasting heritage going on right there.
Yeah,
That's what
well,
that's
hey,
about.
I do have to tell you this. From one episode, I just got to throw this out there because
Sure.
this sounds crazy to me.
Okay.
It was a Halloween episode. I believe it was Halloween last year. I'm going to assume Halloween last year because Halloween this year hasn't happened yet. But they talked about, I want to say they called it donut bobbing.
Donut bobbing?
Yes.
I missed that episode.
Okay. So, like we grew up with bobbing for apples.
Sure.
Which is disgusting.
It's disgusting because everybody's putting their mouth in the barrel.
Yeah, that's...
It's not disgusting.
There's no other...
It's not disgusting for the first guy.
When bobbing for apples, always be first in line.
That's right.
That's good advice, actually. That's really good advice. But what they do is they hang donuts from yarn from tree limbs.
Okay.
And you can't use your hands, and you have to eat the donut. But naturally, so it's going to move every time you take a bite.
Sure. And I'm imagining, depending upon how you bite it, it might fall off too, right? Like you bite it enough that you
Sure.
lose some donut.
Sure, but the thing is the fat kid in me was so intrigued.
I'm pretty intrigued myself.
Yes.
My inner fat kid is very excited about the idea. I think we're going to need to do some
Donuts,
donut bobbing for
yeah.
Halloween this year. I am down with that. That's our favorite part of the show, I think, right there. That's our favorite moment. So we've talked about the audio quality. We talked about host likability, the content itself, and production values. The other thing we like to do here on Pod on Pod is give the show some alternate names. I'm going to say Sweet Mommies with Dirty Mouths.
That's a good one.
It also sounds way more dirty than I thought it when I wrote it down. Like, it didn't sound sexual when I wrote it down. It sounds really sexual all of a sudden. I don't mean it like that.
Well, kid, mommy drinks because of you.
Mommy Drinks Because of You is a pretty good name of the show.
Yeah. Okay. Because I don't want to. They never talk poorly about their kids.
No, of course
Ever.
not. Like, they're all obviously very good, engaged mothers and like involved mothers. Maybe I think some people might listen to the show and go, "These ladies are over involved in their children's lives."
I don't want to. I don't know how long we are right now, but what I did like about the show is, and it seems like I think what draws me to listen to podcasts, man, is it's so much more wholesome than television.
Well,
So think about this.
okay.
So you have these ladies who sounds like great parents, definitely into their kids. They sound like wonderful wives.
Yes.
Okay.
You'd be happy to have these people in your,
Then you got Corey and the guys from IVMV, and I follow them on Instagram and things like that. And there's pictures. I had my kids at the first game and all this great, wonderful stuff.
checked in dads.
Okay. Yes. And then you have Josh and Chuck from Stuff You Should Know. Like, generally, you feel like they're good guys, good, wholesome guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even Oh No, Ross and Carrie, which is a show I didn't really care for. But again, there's a wholesome quality to it.
I guess that is a pretty good way to describe Oh No, Ross and Carrie. Yeah.
Yeah. So all these podcasts that we listen to, man, it's just people being good people. And you don't get a whole lot of that on television anymore, which is probably why my wife often comes home to me binge watching Little House on the Prairie reruns.
Like, this is the only thing that can hold a candle to podcasting.
No,
Nothing but
look,
Laurel Ingalls
we get-
Wilder and podcasts.
we get so much junk. Like, just look at your news feed every day. So much of it is negative, right?
Almost all of it.
Same thing with television.
Like those playgrounds with razor blades on them.
Yeah, but the same thing with television. Television doesn't really hold the all American family wholesome values anymore, and that's because us of a nation, our look has changed as families, and so TV, I think, is probably reflecting that,
Trying to reflect
and
that.
it can be hard to remember what basic values look like.
That's a pretty good assessment,
And
actually.
I feel like podcasts are, by and large, filled with that type of cast and those type of people.
I think there's a lot of them. We've reviewed a lot of them already that have that idea. I'll tell you this. I like the fact that these ladies are, as you said, they're very involved parents. They're checked in parents. They're concerned about their kids and looking forward and out for their
And still
children's
finding
well-being.
ways to hang out with each other.
Hang out with each other, have a good time, and show that even good families aren't perfect.
Yes.
Like, you don't need to feel bad because your kid didn't have all the supplies the first day of school, because they got a funny story about how they missed out on the Target sale and didn't have all the stuff.
Well, being in the South, drinking and swearing is something you just don't do.
Yeah, it's like that's a no-no, except it's not. Everybody has a
Exactly.
drink and everybody
Yes.
drops an F-bomb now and again. Absolutely. And I like the fact that these ladies own that and
So
help
I know we're going.
mirror it.
Yes, and I know we're going a little long, but it was just something that this podcast in particular made me think about.
No, that's fair enough. Absolutely. So after we get done discussing a show and we've kind of broken it down for you and given you a glimpse into it, if this is your first time hearing about Mommy's Cocktail Hour, the last thing we like to do here on Pod is rate the show itself. We could give it thumbs up or stars like so many other people have done, but we like to
Tomatoes.
consider, yes, actually, yeah, absolutely. But we like to consider ourselves the Siskel and Ebert of podcasts. And therefore, we came up with our own idea. It's earbuds in. So we're going to rate this show. I'm going to give it 1.5 earbuds.
Oh wow,
And it's a little
that's
higher.
impressive. Yeah.
Generally, 1.5 earbuds or 2 earbuds would tell you that this is going to be one that I'm listening to every week. This is not going to be one that I'm probably going to stay subscribed to or listen to all the time. I might check in on occasion for a special episode, and I have already suggested it to several female friends of mine, mommies themselves.
It is a good one to have for that, yeah.
Well, a lot of times I feel like, Honeybun, my wife, I feel like she feels left out. I got, 15 tech podcasts and 4 geek podcasts and a couple of sports podcasts and all this stuff that I listen to, and none of those things necessarily appeal to her enough to listen to an hour's worth ever, let alone week in and week out. There's lots in this show that I think she would really enjoy, including ladies cutting loose, having a cold drink at the end of the night, and dropping a few F-bombs talking about parenting and marriage. Because I know being married to me causes her to think the F-bombs, even if she's not dropping them out loud. So this is one that I've suggested to other people. It's one that I think is, we said early on, if a show is true to itself, like that's a high rating in and of itself. Like if it has a mission statement, so to speak, and it really follows through on it, this one does, absolutely. Like you can make arguments about the audio quality. We can make suggestions about maybe you cut one host and have them rotate in and out so that it's a little simpler to listen to.
Well, and plus, because whenever you get to Fabulous Finds, they don't always all have something because they're doing it, I guess, weekly. But if you rotate them in and out, there's going to be a chance they're going to have something new and fresh.
Absolutely. And for all of those reasons and others, I'm going to give it 1.5 earbuds.
All right, that's pretty high.
It is.
I'm not going to go quite that high.
Surprise, surprise. Anybody that's looked at our review list, they know one of us is the cupcake judge and one of us is the Russian judge.
Okay, here's the deal. I'm going to be honest. I will probably never listen to another episode.
That's fair enough. Well, maybe you'll change your mind when you have kids.
Maybe. You're right. Maybe. But currently, right now, not the demographic. I can't fit it in. I will never listen to another show. I feel like there's a lot of value here, though. Okay? If I'm never going to listen to a show again, it's going to get a 0. And I thought, well, that's not fair. And I thought, I just want to give it some recognition. Maybe I'll give it a half. But the half is generally reserved for not the podcasts I hate, but the ones I downright loathe. And because I have already, like you, have recommended this to people. In fact, as I was listening to the second episode, I thought of right off, I was like, man, I can't wait to tell this person. It's our mutual friend's wife.
Yes.
You had the same thought.
Yeah. This should be a show she's doing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So with all that stuff factored in, I'm not going to listen to it. There is value. I will recommend it. I'm giving it a solid 1.
Mommy's Cocktail Hour gets a total of 2.5 earbuds from Josh and Joel this week on Pod on Pod.
Which I think is higher than the husband's Ivy Envy.
I think it is, actually, because I was not very, I'm not the demographic for Ivy Envy.
Correct.
And I did not feel like there was a tremendous amount of value for me or most other people in it. It's a really good show. It's well put together. It ain't for me. Mommy's Cocktail Hour I got more out of.
Okay.
What does that say about me, I suppose? By the way, my phone's blowing up now. Mommy's Cocktail Hour retweeting us as we speak. I want to go ahead and give you a little bit of a preview, though, before we wrap up this week on Pod on some of the upcoming episodes. We got a lot of stuff to get to and review over the next several weeks, and a bunch of them are brought to us by you. The first one is the show that we're going to review next week, actually, and I'm really looking forward to this. Sick and Wrong.
Okay.
And we talked about, what did we talk about in this episode? How podcasting is all about morals and
is this going to be a
sense
very
of entitlement.
degenerate?
I'm thinking this one's going to be
All
the
right.
other direction. Sick and Wrong, the Sick and Wrong podcast, they're already up over 400 episodes. These guys have been podcasting for like 7 or 8 years, and the first episode I listened to just a little bit of already today, and they reference they've never missed a week in 7 or 8 years of podcasting.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
That's impressive. That right there is impressive. So that's the episode coming to you next week. And then 2 weeks out, we're going to be up to episode 25, and we got a special thing coming.
It's the flashback episode.
Yeah, we're going to take a look back, sort of. It's not our quarter in review. I guess it's about a half year now that we've been doing this, and we're going to look back at a lot of the shows that we've reviewed, not necessarily every single one of them, but a lot of the shows we've reviewed. We'll give you some updates on some of those shows. Yes. We'll tell you whether we're still listening to them or not. And we'll also pick our favorites as well as pick the top network that we've reviewed so far.
All right. Oh, this one's on a network.
It is. Do you know the name of the network? I can't remember.
Not off the top of my head. It said at the very, very beginning, but I don't remember.
Yes, these ladies are on a network. I'm going to have to get that information and get it up on the website because we like to mention that as well. Let me just give you a little hint about some other shows that we're going to be reviewing before too long. We're going to talk about the Art of Manliness podcast.
Which I thought, while I was listening to Mommy's Cocktail Hour, I wonder what a podcast in this kind of format would be for guys. And a listener sent something in.
The Art of Manliness. The Art of Manliness is a really cool website I followed for a long time. I knew they had a podcast. I have not listened to it yet. I actually had it on my list to suggest at some point when we had a hole. So we're going to make a hole for that one since that one got submitted. We're also going to be reviewing Freakonomics, which is one of my favorite podcasts anyway. It got listeners submitted, and that's coming up in a few weeks. And then we're going to be talking about a show called Garage Logic. And that's a sports show. If you want to send us a show that you would like us to review sometime, whether it's your own podcast or just your favorite one to listen to, yes.
I want to submit a show.
You want to submit a show?
Yeah.
What?
Hollywood Babylon.
Hollywood Babylon.
Put it on the list.
Okay, we'll put it on the list. Here's the deal. We've already reviewed a couple of shows from Smodco, and we want to sprinkle some smaller shows in there.
How many have we reviewed?
2.
One.
And we did Edumacation.
Okay, yeah.
And we did Tell 'em Steve Dave.
That's true.
And we also did What Say You, which is sort of a Smodco show. Sort of a Smodco show.
It's my favorite network.
It's mine too. So all of that and more coming. You can submit your show or your favorite podcast at podonpod@teamprocreate.com. Podonpod@teamprocreate.com. Make sure you visit the website, podonpod.com. It's a brand new revamped website. It's got pictures of our smiling faces up there.
Yes, it does.
Some very interesting bios. You can find out a little bit about us in our past lives. You can also find all of our reviews. They're listed there. Really easy. You can just look how we rated the show, what the show is about, and then you can click right through to the review itself and listen. You can also subscribe to us straight there from the website, whether you use iTunes or Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, or even some Android podcasting app. We've got just the RSS feed linked as well. So all of that stuff is at podonpod.com. One more time, I just want to say thank you and welcome to all the new listeners. So excited. It was a great week for us last week. We appreciate all of you coming on board.
And keep on popping.
Indeed. Keep on popping, my friends. Until next week, this is Joel.
And I'm Josh.
And this has been Daddy's Podcast Hour.
Are you wanting something funny? Are you wanting something smart? A show on astral projection or the history of art? Do you want to learn a language or how to play guitar? Just leave it up to Joel and Josh.
Pod on Pod is a proud member of the Procast Network, a Procreate production. Procreate is a community of artists in film, music, the digital arts, and fine arts that helps connect and collaborate on projects. You can find out more at www.teamprocreate.com. Also, be sure to check out the non-content podcast if you're a fan of gaming and or anime. The Pod on Pod theme song is written and performed by Adam Dale. Find his music in iTunes and more information about him on our website.